Let's start with
Thank
China. Your thoughts?
Well, it's obviously a big deal because there's a currency war going on with many of the currencies in China. It wasn't a surprise to a lot of people that this would happen. It's nothing more than central economic planning by manipulation of money. Central economic planning and manipulation of wage and price controls in the general economy is generally looked on with disdain. But for some reason, most of the conventional economists and teachers say that, oh, it's necessary to have central economic planning and total control of the price of money, which means only governments know what the ratios ought to be between the currencies, not the market. And they also think the price of money should be dictated by a group of individuals in secret, decide what interest rates would be. And that's where the bubbles come from. That's why oil was up to $150. So that was a predictable event, and it has to correct. And you can't have a bubble like that unless you have interest rates of 0%. So it's the fixing of the price of money, whether it's the currency wars or whether it's the interest rates. They're nothing more than trying to adjust a system that is unadjustable. You cannot do it. You don't know what the interest rate should be, and you don't know what the ratio should be, and it's a pretense, but obviously it creates tremendous disequilibrium, and we have to face up to it because it exists right now in many, many areas of the economy.
In terms of how the Fed is going to react to what China is doing here, do you think it changes the course of action for Janet Yellen?
Well, yes, I think it probably will. I think she'll be more hesitant because she sees how fragile it is. But I wouldn't accept the fact that nobody anticipated this. There's a lot of the people that I read from the free market Austrian perspective that said that these currency wars are ongoing, and they weren't going to be surprised if there would be a devaluation by the Chinese, just the same way as Austrian economists knew about 07 and 08 coming, and the housing bubble and the NASDAQ bubble. So the answers can be found in sound free market economics and not relying on Keynesian economics and manipulation and socialized medical monetary policy. That's where our problem is. So, yes, she's under the gun. I think I have predicted, I may be wrong on this, but I don't think they're going to raise interest rates. I think there's going to be enough problem existing, whether it's the Chinese precipitating some crisis or whether it's our economy breaking down or whatever. But they're terrified of 1937, and with Bernanke as well as Yellen just think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Am I going to be responsible for the depression and recession that's going to resume itself, which I think we've been in the midst of all along, because we've just every month, no matter what statistics we get on employment, the middle class gets smaller, and the permanently unemployed, that number keeps growing.
Dr. Paul, do you think that this is a period of transition, or necessarily, possibly that trigger point that you and I have discussed before in terms of the bubble bursting?
Well, I think so. I think it just means it's getting closer because one of these will get out of hand. It got out of hand a bit in 08. But no, something big like that will happen. And I think it's tied to geopolitical events, too.